Welcome again to Tony the Movie Guy, the podcast, episode 6, part 2 of classics. Without further ado, I hope you enjoy.
Tony.
All right, this is part 2 of It's a Classic. This is going very long, but you know what? We're having fun, so who cares? I hope you guys enjoy. Yeah, look, these are classics.
Frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn.
Exactly.
We're going long.
Yeah, I mean, we're spanning like 60, 70 years, which is kind of interesting. It just kind of happened fluidly that way. But look, I'll go through this a bit faster, and I realize some of these you guys haven't seen, so I won't go into them in more detail other than say, watch them, let me know what you think. Okay, good. So I have the next one, which is one of my favorite films of all time, The Matrix.
Absolutely. Oh, yeah.
Amazing movie, groundbreaking special effects.
The first one.
Yes.
Okay.
You know what's funny?
Just to clarify.
You know what's funny? I rewatched the others recently, and there's parts of them now I enjoy more, but they're not great movies.
It's funny that we're calling it a classic. It makes me feel very old.
Well, it was in 99.
Yeah. Well, number one, it was actually a long time ago, but it's
almost
a
20 years
great
ago.
movie. It really is a classic movie. I mean, the effects were groundbreaking. The storyline is fantastic.
Amazing,
I love it, and it was. It's a great movie.
Well, and to be honest, nothing had really quite been done like that
Exactly.
before with the use of slow-mo type things.
So
He's dodging the bullet,
Yeah, and it was the Wachowski brothers then, now the Wachowski sisters. Times have changed. But that film is fantastic, and it's one of Keanu Reeves. That's kind of a perfect role for Keanu Reeves. He's not necessarily the greatest actor. I love the
But
guy.
that and John Wick, he excels.
Exactly. And Lawrence Fishburne is fantastic in that movie. Anyway, I think everyone's seen The Matrix.
Yeah.
Okay, another one of my personal favorites, Good Will Hunting.
Oh, yeah.
Another Robin Williams.
Amazing.
Classic.
Robin Williams
Amazing
won the
film.
Oscar for that movie. Ben Affleck and Matt Damon wrote the script and won an Oscar for it. I don't know if you know that.
I did know that.
That film I watched in the theater, it really affected me. And then Elliott Smith did the soundtrack and committed suicide a few years later. It's beautiful. I love that movie, and Minnie Driver is fantastic in it, Oscar nomination. Gus Van Sant directed the film, and he hasn't really done anything else I've loved, but I love that movie.
Great
it's fantastic. Okay, good. Schindler's List. So I know on the very
Dani.
first... I won't repeat what I said on the first episode. Schindler's List is Spielberg's masterpiece. Did you know that came out the same year that Jurassic Park came out?
I didn't.
Yeah.
I actually haven't seen Schindler's List.
What?
I'm sorry.
It's so tough to watch.
Look, it's about the Holocaust,
It's
so it's an
horrible.
extremely rough movie. But it's
I think it's an
incredibly
important
done.
film. I think I should watch
right.
it.
That's a movie that deserves and earns its respect.
Yeah.
It's historical, it's cultural, it's significant, and it truly is. It tells a story that has to be told. It's done so beautifully. Look, when I first watched that movie when it came out, I didn't see it in the theater, and I don't think I could have handled it in the theater. It took me 2 months having to rent it from good old Blockbuster.
Back in the day.
Several times. And I have to watch comedies in between. It's like a 3.5-hour movie. Very rough. Liam Neeson, incredible in it. Ben Kingsley, and oh my God, Ralph Fiennes.
So good.
One of the best villains. Anyway, Schindler's List is incredible film. Steven Spielberg, and he won an Oscar for that movie, and then he also released Jurassic Park, which became one of his biggest blockbuster
Which is my personal
movies.
favorite movie of all time.
Well, finally, that's next on the list, Jurassic Park.
Which you have always said to me is not actually one of your favorites.
So I don't love it. Love it, but it's definitely a classic. It's a
love
classic
everything
movie.
about that film. I've seen it probably more than any other film that exists, and something about that film is just it's my film.
So let me tell you, it holds up quite well. It's a film that I appreciate the more I've seen it. I guess it didn't hit me. I remember Schindler's List at that time more than I remember Jurassic Park for some reason. I watched it more and more later, but it's a great movie, and obviously it's a classic.
We should rewatch that, Dani. Movie night, Tone.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, here's another one. Now, this film actually doesn't hold up as well on watching it over and over, mainly because it doesn't have as much impact once you know the incredible twist. This is The Usual Suspects.
Oh, such a good film.
It's incredible.
Such a
Bryan
good
Singer
movie.
directed it. Christopher McQuarrie won an Oscar. Kevin Spacey. You haven't seen it?
I haven't seen it.
It's a classic.
Dani, feel free to pitch in because I haven't seen it.
Oh man, I hope I didn't ruin it.
That movie is what made me fall in love with Kevin Spacey.
The greatest trick
Yeah.
the devil ever pulled was to convince the world he didn't exist, and then
Boom.
he's gone. Anyway,
It's
you have to watch
Intriguing.
that.
Okay,
It's
I'll put it on my
so good.
list. I'll put it on my list.
Incredible film. Forrest Gump. That's
Oh,
one
I
of
was
my
gonna say,
wife's
where's
favorite
Forrest
movies.
Gump?
That is one of my all-time top 5 favorite
Mine too.
movies.
I
Tom
saw it
Hanks.
in the theater.
Robin Wright.
I liked it. I love it even more each time I watch
Yeah.
it.
I was gonna, every single
Every
time
time.
I fall more and more in love with him. Sally Field was amazing.
She's
in that.
incredible. Tom Hanks
Such a
won the
sweetheart.
Oscar for it. Here's what's funny about that movie. It's a very melancholy film.
It is.
It's very sad. But the way it spans the decades, it's incredible. And it's funny. It's a film that over the years, a lot of critics don't like as much. Or they've depreciated it. I think it's fantastic.
To me, that's a film, again, rewatchability. Whenever it's on TV, my husband and I will record it and watch it every time. Like, oh, it's playing.
I
we
own 2
rent it
copies
and watch it. It's
of
amazing.
it.
So
Yeah.
we'll try not to go into a deep dive on each one of these, but the
You're
truth
bringing
is,
up some good ones.
right, the
so-
truth
These
is,
are like my top favorites.
it's going to be hard.
Yeah.
So, I mean, Forrest Gump is a classic. It's fantastic.
It's a classic.
Exactly. Okay, Train Spotting. Have you seen Train Spotting?
Oh, that's an incredible film.
You know, I've seen part of it. That's with what's his face, Ewan McGregor.
Ewan McGregor.
Sorry.
Danny Boyle. It's
Good
a
old what's his
British
face.
classic, very hard-hitting film about heroin addiction. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
And also the
phenomenal.
soundtrack is legendary. You definitely have to watch it. Fight Club is my next one.
Oh, Fight Club.
That
That's again
movie-
one we
First
need
rule
to-
about Fight Club is
You don't talk
Don't
about Fight
talk
Club.
about-
Second rule about Fight
Exactly.
Club is you don't talk about Fight Club.
we need to rewatch that too.
Yeah, Brad
Yeah.
Pitt, one of his
Okay.
best performances. Edward Norton. It's a David Fincher movie. When I watched that film in the theater, I was like, "What is this?"
I was confused.
I was so confused.
I actually didn't quite get it until the second time I watched
too.
it, and then I was like,
too.
now I see what all the fuss is about.
So if you buy that on Blu-ray, it really messed with Danny and I's heads. We bought it
Why?
on Blu-ray, and when you put it in, the house bunny shows up with scene selections, and we were
Never
like,
Been Kissed.
"Sorry, Never Been Kissed," the Drew
What?
Barrymore rom-com,
Like
and
the
we were
title
like,
part.
"Huh?"
You're
And
like, we got the wrong video.
it messes with your mind. It's actually the Fight
No.
Club Blu-ray. Well, that film has subliminal messages. It's
funny.
got like penises throughout it, and Tyler Durden flashing throughout the film. People are free. It's become like a college classic.
Yeah.
It's a really intriguing, weird, incredible film with meatloaf in it. I love it. It's very rewatchable, and it's aged, I think, so well.
So that's one of those we would consider a cult classic.
Yes, because when it came out, it was not a hit, so it kind of is a cult classic.
Yeah.
But it's embraced being a classic as well. It just is. It's
Yeah.
it's so quotable. You quoted it. Okay, Saving Private Ryan. It's a war movie. It's a masterpiece.
man.
That's my favorite war film
The
of
first
all time.
10 minutes of that film.
Incredible. Yeah, the beach in Normandy, the
Yeah.
opening sequence. Tom Hanks, Spielberg,
I couldn't-
incredible cast. Barry Pepper, Giovanni Ribisi, Vin Diesel, Edward Burns. I love that movie. It's my favorite war
Sometimes
movie.
these war movies are hit or miss for me, but that one I definitely enjoyed.
Matt
They're hard
Damon.
to watch.
Yeah,
But
it's-
I did like it.
It's incredible. It's my favorite war film of all time. Okay, you guys might find this one funny, but this film had an incredible impact on me. Boys in the Hood. Have you seen that?
No, is that the Boys in the Hood? Da, 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 da.
Yeah.
Whatever.
NWA
Okay.
did do a song by it. It's Cuba Gooding Jr. It's Lawrence Fishburne. It's directed by John Singleton. I think he was the youngest African-American director to get an Oscar nomination at the time. It's one of these kind of like gangster hood movies that really brought to the world, true life depiction of what it was like growing up in the hood in Compton. I watched that movie when I was a teenager and it hit me hard. It's not your average like stupid gangster movie. It's so smart. It's so well done.
Yeah.
Very impactful. I love it. I definitely recommend it.
I definitely need to watch that. I know my husband loves it. I haven't seen
Yeah.
it.
Okay, Heat.
Oh,
Heat
so
is
good.
phenomenal. Michael
Heat.
Mann. He is particularly famous for being the first film where Robert De Niro and Al Pacino share scenes together.
Okay.
It's got one of the best scenes where they're literally just sitting in a cafe talking to each other, and it's electric.
So this is like a classic.
Yes.
Classic.
Val Kilmer is in it. He's phenomenal.
Oh, I love Val Kilmer.
yeah.
I can't believe
When
I've
he was
seen this.
hot.
I can't believe you haven't
Yeah.
seen Heat.
I actually haven't even heard of it. I've never heard of this
It's like an
movie.
epic crime movie. We actually discussed it on remakes
Yeah,
and reboots.
isn't Heat and Point Break, they came out sort of within each other relatively...
Heat came out in the mid-90s.
Oh.
Point Break came out in the early 90s. Anyway,
Okay.
absolutely
Both
watch it.
incredible.
Okay,
I have
I am adding it to my list.
Natalie Portman's in it as well when she's
Oh,
like
she
a
must have been
teenage
really
girl,
young
really
then.
young. It's fantastic. Okay, this is one of my personal favorites, kind of under the radar, Magnolia.
Oh, brilliant. movie.
Love that movie.
Paul
Tom
Thomas
Cruise
Anderson.
is great
Tom Cruise,
in it.
that's his best performance. He's in it for maybe 20 minutes. He is absolutely electric, spellbinding. Especially at the deathbed with his father, the way he breaks down. I think it's his best performance ever. That's what I always tell people when they go, "Oh, Tom Cruise is an action movie star, or he can't
You're
really
like,
act."
nope, see
Watch
Magnolia.
that movie. Anyway, it's fantastic.
Yeah.
It's a very complex film. It's very out there. The whole cast is amazing. Philip Seymour Hoffman, Julianne Moore, William H. Macy. I love that movie. Absolutely love it. Rushmore. Wes Anderson.
Love
You love
this
that. I think, did I
movie.
make you watch that?
No, actually, I had seen it close to when it first came up, way before I knew you.
So The Life Aquatic with Steve Zissou is actually my favorite Wes Anderson movie, which is a lesser known one with Bill Murray. I don't know why I love that movie, but Rushmore is kind of the most rewatchable and the most
Yeah.
acclaimed, I think.
Jason
and,
Schwartzman.
Yeah, Bill Murray.
So good. I can go into a whole spiel about Wes Anderson films, though. I love them all.
Well, maybe
Moonrise
we'll come
Kingdom.
back and we'll do an
Moonrise
episode.
Kingdom's
Oh, yeah.
excellent.
I
do
love
that.
Moonrise Kingdom.
All
Royal
of them.
Tenenbaums.
Royal Tenenbaums.
Yeah, so he has such a unique style. He brings such depth to complicated characters, and it's so quirky, and I love it. But Rushmore is just a joyful movie. It's so great. Okay, Braveheart.
Oh, God.
Freedom! Okay, so this is like kind
sobbed
of
through
yeah.
that
This is
whole
like Mel
movie.
Gibson's last hurrah.
Yeah.
You know, he's had a bit of a rough time in the last decade. He's kind of coming back now. Hacksaw Ridge was fantastic, which he
was
directed.
amazing,
So he won an Oscar for this, for directing it. He starred in it. Now look. Historically, it's a little wild.
It's totally
you know,
wild.
William Wallace did not shag the princess.
And apparently William Wallace was actually not a good dude. Like, he's not, per history,
so
I think
I don't
he's
know.
kind
That could
of-
be
yeah.
controversial, but
But
I
as a
love that movie.
film,
It was amazing.
it's a classic.
Right, and Robert the Bruce apparently was the one who actually brought
Yeah.
the freedom, and William Wallace kind of stirred it, and there was a big gap between when those happened. But
But it's a movie.
it's such
a
an
movie.
epic film. It's so well done, very rewatchable.
Can we just appreciate that scene where they moon the castle and then they spear them in the butts?
Yeah.
Oh my god! Anyway,
Right,
that
it's
was
a
just
film.
great.
Like when they kill his wife,
Oh my
they
gosh,
slit her
don't
throat.
even.
Oh my goodness! But it's such a film
And
where
the music to
right, the
that.
music is incredible. The humor, it's got some great humor, and
Yeah,
then
it
the
does.
action, the drama. Anyway, it's a phenomenal film. You have to watch it, and it is Mel Gibson at his best.
Yeah. 100%.
Boogie Nights.
Yep.
Paul Thomas
Haven't
Anderson.
seen it.
What
It's
I
is
am
wrong with
sorry.
you?
I'm hanging my head in shame.
Okay, this is a film, Paul Thomas Anderson. This was Mark Wahlberg's big break.
I've
Yeah.
seen parts of it. I just haven't seen
Yeah,
the whole
he's
thing.
great in it. I mean, it's about the porn industry. Burt Reynolds got an Oscar nomination, big comeback for him. Julianne Moore was fantastic in it.
Who's the
But,
blonde girl that's in it?
Heather Graham,
Right,
You
yeah.
know, Roller Girl. It's a great film. It's kind of Tarantino-esque, but it has
Yeah,
its
it
own
is.
voice. Here's one thing about that film that really has an impact on me: the director's ability to give small roles such a big impact. Like, I remember Philip Seymour Hoffman's character in that film, even though he's only in it for a handful of scenes, as this kind of gay, shy guy who is secretly in love with, Mark Wahlberg's character. And William H. Macy is heartbreaking in it. Don Cheadle has so many great storylines. Boogie Nights it's not for everyone because it's about the porn industry, and the last frame is him whipping out a fake prosthetic, like 12-inch cock.
Remember that.
But
That is one scene I don't remember.
I'm
Haven't
telling
seen
you,
it.
that film is a masterpiece. It's phenomenal. Each time I watch it, I appreciate it more and more. Okay, I'm going to try and go through this faster. The Truman Show. Oh, darn,
Great
it's so
movie.
hard to
I
just
love
skip
that.
past. I love it.
Jim Carrey.
Yeah.
I know that's another one that I haven't seen until recently, maybe about 5-6 years ago.
Really?
Oh, I've seen that so many times. That movie really moved me, and it elevated Jim Carrey because he was a slapstick comedian. I loved Ace Ventura, Dumb and Dumber, but that film, I mean, he was snubbed an Oscar nomination at the very least. And it's quite spooky, the concept of that movie. Yeah. But my God, The Truman Show is fantastic. Great really movie. Holds up. Has to be seen. So if you haven't watched it, definitely watch it again. Let's see what else I have. Okay, Clerks is on my list.
That's funny.
Yeah, Kevin
Would
Smith.
it be a classic? I don't know that I'd call
I
it a
think
classic.
so.
I don't know if you can call that a classic.
So here, I knew you were going to say that. A lot of men, and probably men my age, would absolutely think so. Kevin Smith isn't for everyone. I happen to absolutely love him. I've watched every single one of his movies, and actually Chasing Amy is my personal favorite of
He did
his.
Mallrats too, right?
Mallrats,
See, Mallrats
yeah.
I would consider a classic because it's more in my own...
See, I don't find Mallrats that rewatchable. I've tried to watch it again, and it's not. Clerks is so unique. It was made for nothing, and it's really held up, and I love the sequel. Look, Kevin Smith has a very unique taste. He's very, very putty mouth, but I love it. It's great.
Okay.
And people really should check out his movies. You know, he's a great director. Okay, American Beauty is a film I love.
Yes.
And so a lot of critics, again, have depreciated that movie. They don't think it's as good. I think it's fantastic. I think Kevin Spacey won the Oscar. He deserved it.
He definitely did.
Fantastic film.
And Annette Bening is in that too, right?
Yeah.
That's his wife.
So Annette Bening, this is funny. I won't go on a whole tangent. That poor lady cannot seem to win an Oscar to save her life.
But
she
she's
was
phenomenal.
phenomenal in that. She
Yeah.
got a nomination, lost. She's been nominated like 5 or 6 times. She keeps losing. That was one of her best performances. I loved her in it.
It's a very unique movie.
Yeah, so I love that movie. Okay, you're going to love this next one. Jerry Maguire.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now I know you guys already talked about that on the rom-com.
Do you want to say something about it?
I just think it's one of those always holds up. Always. You can see it a billion times. I do consider it a romantic comedy.
You're right.
do.
And a sports movie.
I mean, it's about sports, but yeah. But that kid, he steals
Jonathan
the scene for
Lipnicki.
me.
Yeah.
He
kid.
steals.
You should
the
see him
scene.
now. He's like a
Squat
wrestler.
little
Yeah,
footballer,
he's
yeah.
buff. You know, he does like martial art, mixed martial
such an
arts. He's
incredible
badass. It is. It's a total feel-good movie, and look, it's definitely a romantic comedy / sports movie / drama.
Okay. I'm the only one that didn't say it was a romantic comedy,
Yeah.
only because I found it more of a drama romance than a comedy.
So we all love it.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Next, I have Scream. Scream reinvented the horror genre.
Yeah.
Wes
Okay.
Craven, Drew Barrymore's
definitely a
cameo.
classic.
It's a great. Have you seen Scream?
I have, but I'm just thinking, like, would I have? I guess I
It's
would consider
definitely
that
a
a
classic.
classic because that
I
also
think it
started that
reinvented it.
whole.
Yeah.
Started the slasher movies.
It's,
Yeah.
but it's actually a great film. It's very entertaining. It's got some thrills in it. I love it. Okay, and then of course I had Pretty Woman. We already discussed that before. Julia Roberts, Richard Gere. She shines in that movie. All right, 2000s. So I have The Dark Knight.
Of course.
We discussed that.
Yeah, we went
Heath
into that in
Ledger,
detail.
best performance ever as the Joker. It's a phenomenal movie. The trilogy's great. The Dark Knight, I consider a damn near perfect movie. I also think that film set the template for how superhero movies could actually be taken seriously. That movie got like Oscar nominations. It was serious, you know. And it's just a fantastic film. Next, I have the Lord of the Rings trilogy.
Of course.
So
I was wondering when you were going to bring that up.
well, it's 2000s. Remember, I've literally gone. You realize I've gone from 1930 to the 2000s.
Guys, we spanned several years here.
That's why this is a long podcast in 2 parts. But okay, so outside of Dead Poets Society, the Lord of the Rings trilogies are my favorite movies of all time, and then probably Star Wars next.
Yeah.
It was such an experience watching that trilogy in the theater as
my
they came out.
gosh,
I
yeah,
remember
every
it was
time.
all we were talking about was
Yeah.
the next movie coming out.
Yeah.
It was a phenomenon. Would you agree?
Yeah, and for me, it took cinematography to a whole new level.
Yeah.
The
Peter
beauty
Jackson.
of it.
Yeah.
I mean, and the costuming too.
Gollum, you know, and Elijah Wood,
The
and
special
Sean
effects
Astin,
of it, showing all those battle scenes.
yeah, Vigo as Aragorn. I mean,
With those orcas, whatever
Yeah.
they're called.
Orcs.
Sorry,
Yeah.
orcs. Whatever.
yeah, Gandalf, Sir Ian McKellen. You shall not pass. Anyway, those films are incredible. You know, and I know Return of the King. Some people, you know, kind of criticize the multiple endings. To me, I get it. It was hard for Peter Jackson to let go, so it's kind of got multiple endings at the end. Return
I
of the
loved
King.
it.
I love Return of the
Love
King.
Return
And
of the
here's a testament to those films. The full unedited editions of each of those films are like 5 hours long.
Yep.
And those are the ones I watch on repeat every year.
I was going to say, I'm sure you've watched those many times.
I binged all three from like 9 a.m. to like 10 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
They are masterpieces. Peter Jackson, and he won like all 11 Oscars for the Return of the King.
Yeah.
Well deserved. It was fantastic. And they did The Hobbit, and it was nostalgic and fun, but it didn't have the
Nothing
magic of the
compared
original
to Lord of the
trilogy.
Rings,
Yeah.
So we agree. Those are beautiful films, and they have to be watched. And it does annoy me sometimes when people say, "Oh, those are the walking movies where they're just walking." I'm like, "You're smoking
Oh,
crack.
please.
Watch them."
Yeah. Watch them. Also read the books because the movies do a
The
great
books are
job
great,
following the books.
Exactly, they really are. And the only thing they really leave out is all the poetry and singing, which is okay with me. Yeah. Okay, I have Gladiator, phenomenal film. Ridley Scott. Russell Crowe. Oh, you need to rewatch that. Have you seen it?
I've seen it. I've seen it actually probably 3 times.
Are you not entertained?
I think it's really good. I don't know that I'd call it a classic.
Okay, he won the Oscar. Russell Crowe did.
Yeah.
I love that
I
movie.
agree with you on
and
that.
the music is incredible.
It's a great movie, but
But you know,
didn't stick with me that way.
Let me rewatch it again in a
do
new
me
light
one
and
solid,
see if
ladies.
it
Watch
still
it
holds
again.
up and, you know.
Yeah. Okay, Almost Famous. Cameron Crowe.
yeah.
That's Cameron Crowe's last truly great movie.
Incredible
I love
film.
that movie.
That's in one of my top 5.
Okay, so you love it.
That
You love
bus
it.
scene alone where
Yeah.
they sing is
Oh yeah, the Elton
whole-
John song,
the
Tiny
whole-
Dancer. Yeah. Great cast. A lot of young people. Billy Crudup was fantastic in that movie. I thought he was going to catapult
I
to
love
superstardom,
him.
and he didn't. It was strange, but a very personal film for Cameron Crowe. Love it. Okay, Pan's Labyrinth is one of my favorite foreign films of all time. I made you watch that. Do
You made me
remember?
watch that.
He's
I was a
trying
little
to make me.
spooked. Yenny, it's good.
Guillermo
Actually,
del Toro.
it's good.
Oh,
I've grown to love foreign films. One of my favorites is Amelie, which we can
Right,
get
I
into
love
that later.
Amelie, yeah.
But you have to watch it.
I know.
It's
I know.
so good. It's creepy. But
you know, it's like an
good.
adult fairy tale. It's phenomenal. It's very sad.
It's dark.
Visually stunning. It's a phenomenal movie.
I know I need to watch it.
Okay,
I'll
next.
watch it with you.
Yeah, I'll
I'll
watch
hold
it
your
with you. I
hand.
love that movie. It's quite tough at times, but it's a great movie. Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. Love it.
Top 5.
Yeah.
Guys, there's like 10 movies on my top 5.
Kate Winslet, Jim Carrey. Have you seen it? Did you understand
I
it? or-
clearly need to watch it again because I got
Clearly.
through that movie and was like, did I just do an
It's
acid
trippy.
trip?
Well, it is.
What is going on?
Well, the thing, it confuses you in that it doesn't follow one solid
Yeah.
timeline.
The credits
it
roll
goes
for that movie like
back.
40 minutes into the film.
Yeah.
It goes all over the place.
But it's very imaginative.
Yeah.
It's a mind trip, but it's beautiful the way that it's
a
done.
beautiful
I'll watch it
love
again.
story.
I think that is probably my favorite Jim Carrey movie.
Jim Carrey is incredible. Kate Winslet is incredible. It's a very quirky, trippy movie. It's very beautiful. It's kind of the word I have for it.
I will rewatch.
Okay, so talk about a cult classic, Donnie Darko. Jake
Donnie
Gyllenhaal.
Darko.
So I made you watch that,
Yes.
Yanni. Phenomenal film.
Thankfully, Tony let me watch the version that was extended with
Explains it a bit more.
the story because I probably stopped him every 15 minutes, regardless. and
Poor
was like-
Tony.
I don't mind.
I was like, Tony. And he's like, okay, so just think with blah and think with blah. And then I got to the end of that film and it was like an experience.
Yeah.
It was
That
incredible.
ending.
Yeah,
Oh my
it's
gosh.
a trippy movie. Jake Gyllenhaal is fantastic in it.
One of
and
my top 5
Yeah, so it became a
actors.
cult classic, that film, and I love it.
And Jenna Malone was quite good in it too.
She was good in it, yeah.
I haven't really seen her in much.
Yeah, she hasn't done much.
Not lately,
Yeah. And Maggie Gyllenhaal, his sister, is also in it as his
Yeah.
sister.
Yeah.
But it's his movie,
Yeah.
and the music is phenomenal. It was a great film, and unfortunately, the director Richard Kelly hasn't really had any hits since then. But it's a cult classic. I have Monsters Inc. I love that movie.
I'm sorry, I haven't seen that.
What?
It's one of those ones that just kind of came and went for me.
Oh my god.
There's animated films that I'll see, but I haven't seen that
Okay,
one.
I own.
I
that
just know
and
the
sequel.
song that.
Boo.
I'm sorry.
I'm
sorry.
Julie. This
Okay.
is such a flunk.
I apologize
I mean, no.
everywhere.
Anyway, I know we're over time here, so look, Monsters Inc. is one of my favorite
Okay.
Pixar movies. It's lovely. It's lovely. Mike and Sully, Boo. It's a great film. They have a ride dedicated to it at Disneyland. Haven't you been on that ride?
No.
Oh gosh. Okay, it's a great movie. Okay, I have Spider-Man, the Tobey Maguire one. I know a lot of people don't like it. I think that
That's not a classic.
I think so, and I'll tell you why. It really set the template for superhero movies, just as a superhero movie. It was one of the first big blockbuster. X-Men a little bit, but Spider-Man in a big way. It was a huge hit, and it opened the door. It was the real OG one that opened the door for superhero movies. It's okay. You're both frowning. I know you disagree.
I'm frowning.
I'm a dude. I like that in the second one a lot. But anyway, so I had that on my list.
Okay.
And let's see what else I have
I do
here.
enjoy the first Spider-Man of all of them, of all the remakes, even with Andrew Garfield in them. That one is, I mean, it's kind of, to me, a little cheesy, but I love it.
And it's probably
the
true.
first one.
Yeah. Okay, and I also have Slumdog Millionaire, Danny Boyle. That movie was a sleeper hit. It caught people by surprise. It's beautiful. It gave the world Dev Patel.
Yeah.
He's great. Danny Boyle won an Oscar.
Consider that a hit.
Great.
Classic.
Such a feel-good movie. Okay, here's a couple mentions of films from the 2000s that are kind of considered classics that I don't think are. The Departed, we kind of discussed.
Yeah.
Scorsese won his long overdue Oscar for Best Picture. It's a good, solid movie. I like the foreign remake better. Memento doesn't hold up. That was Christopher Nolan. Have you watched it recently?
I have, and what's weird is when it did come out, though, it was this like astounding,
big movie.
weird,
Yeah,
it's another one of those that
it's
didn't
told
get
in
through.
reverse. The film is told in reverse,
Yeah, and I think
it
it's one of
loses
the
its
first movies
magic
that
when you
did
kind of
that.
know what's happening. It was the first one that
So
did that.
when I saw it, I was blown away. I would
Yeah.
have rated it one of my top 15
I agree.
movies, and now I'm just kind of like, eh.
I tried to watch it recently. I got halfway through it and it was just boring because I
I'm
kind of
sorry.
knew where it was
Yeah,
going.
I love Guy Pearce, but
Yeah. Yeah.
doesn't
So there you
do it
go.
for me.
No Country for Old Men is a film that, especially dudes, love it, and I kind of don't get the appeal. I've seen it 2 or 3 times. I find Javier Bardem's villain to be kind of like a weird, like sexual.
Sorry, who was that?
Javier Bardem, or I don't know what his name. He won an
Javier.
Oscar. Javier. Anyway,
You
he-
Brit.
He just seems like a weirdo, you know, like a odd child molester or something. I don't know. I just found his character so odd and his weird bowl haircut. Anyway, I didn't love that movie, and I know a lot of people love it. It's got some great scenes in it. And okay, people are going to beat me up for this. Finding Nemo, I have never been a big fan of.
Love Finding
Well, it's one of the
Nemo.
most acclaimed Pixar movies. Oh, do you agree with me?
I agree with you. I mean, if I would
Yay. No,
say
well, not yay,
any of these that are truly
like Finding
classic,
Dory
which I'm
better.
sorry you haven't mentioned this yet, The Little Mermaid. Hello.
Can I tell you?
Classic.
So again, that was on my list.
that's-
Beauty. Well, see,
yeah,
Beauty
of
and the Beast, Little Mermaid, Aladdin. I had all those, and then I had to take some off.
Yeah.
You know, again, this
The
isn't.
original Disney are all classics.
This isn't all the
fine.
classics.
Yeah.
I mean, look at how long this episode is going. So,
But I do agree with you in that, Finding Nemo is
cute. It's cute.
funny. I loved the
I like
whale
Ellen
talk scene.
DeGeneres.
Hello.
I agree it's not a classic. I
But
agree
it's not
with
a
you.
classic.
I
Well,
love the movie.
Most people will disagree. I think it's cute. But yeah, it wasn't great. Okay, 2010s. I'm almost done. We're winding down. So Star Wars The Force Awakens to me was absolutely a classic. An
Yep.
instant classic. It brought all the nostalgia of Star Wars. It reinvented Star Wars. It made me totally invested in it. I love the new characters. I saw it 5 times in the theater.
Adam
I absolutely
Driver.
loved it. Adam Driver
Please,
as Kylo Ren.
love
but
him.
I
Just
loved.
want 2 words.
I
Adam
loved
Driver.
Rey.
Her face,
Daisy
you should
Ridley.
have just seen it. She just went, Adam Driver. And
From
her
Girls.
face.
Well, remember, we watched Girls together. And
Yeah,
that's
we
where
did.
That was his breakout.
Shout out to girls.
So, anyway, Star Wars Force Awakens, I think, is
Yeah.
an instant. So, here's
I
what's
agree.
interesting. So, now we're getting in the last, 5-10 years. So, this list is much smaller. These are films I consider became instant classics. So,
Yeah.
I'll just go through them and you tell me if you agree.
Okay.
Star Wars The Force Awakens.
Yes.
Inception.
Yes.
Instant classic for me.
Yes.
Leo.
Yeah.
Yes.
Christopher Nolan. Very confusing, but instant classic.
Yes.
Mad Max Fury Road.
Yes.
No,
Instant.
not for me.
Oh, well, yeah, we discussed it before. I think it's an instant classic, one of the best action movies ever. The Wolf of Wall Street, to me, instant classic. I'll tell you, if Dallas Buyers Club hadn't come out that year, where Jared Leto and Matthew McConaughey both won the Oscars, then absolutely Leo and
Would've
Jonah
won,
Hill
yeah.
would have won.
Yeah.
I'm
They
gonna
are
have to
incredible in it.
disagree with you on that, but we'll leave it at that.
That's okay.
Yeah.
I think The Wolf of Wall Street is a fantastic film. Scorsese. The Social Network, to me, instant classic.
instant classic.
They
I
made a
love
film
that
about
movie.
creating Facebook.
Yeah.
Thrilling.
It was amazing.
And
the
here's the
score.
biggest, the score won an Oscar,
Yeah.
which is Trent Reznor from Nine
Yeah.
Inch Nails.
Amazing.
Here's the big snub. I thought that was Andrew Garfield's big breakout. And he got snubbed an Oscar nomination. He was phenomenal in that film. Jesse Eisenberg was great too, but I love The Social Network. That's David
Great
Fincher.
I really like that one.
Yeah, absolutely fantastic. And then let's see what else I have. So we kind of discussed this, Midnight in Paris. That's the only Woody Allen film I love. That film is so whimsical. It's got all these poets and writers, and it's all magical. And, you know, it's actually a great film for Owen Wilson as well.
Yeah.
Rachel McAdams is so douchey. It's a lovely film. And again, I'm not a fan of Woody Allen, but I love that movie. Do you like that movie?
I love that movie.
I haven't seen
it's
that.
magical.
I was confusing it with the other Paris movie, the Ethan Hawke movies.
Oh, that's Before Sunset, After Sunset.
Sunset.
You haven't seen Midnight
During
in Paris?
Sunset.
Yeah,
Just kidding.
I love those movies. I have not seen Midnight in Paris.
It's
Check it
charming.
out. It's
one word
very
to describe
charming.
it, charming.
To me, it's an instant classic. I love that movie. Okay, Dunkirk just came out this year.
I just saw that.
Did you like it?
I really liked it.
Incredible.
It's one of those another war movies
it's a
that
war
I
movie.
love. Unique in that it tells the story from
3
different
timelines:
perspectives.
land, air, and sea.
Which I didn't get right away.
Yeah.
I was like, is that how long it takes to get
And what
to
Tom
there?
Hardy can do with just his eyes. He acts with just his eyes. He's in a mask the whole film. Christopher Nolan
Eyes
loves
and
putting
voice.
him in a
No
mask.
spoilers. I have not.
Anyway,
seen
it's a war movie, but it's an instant classic.
We'll leave it
I
at
loved
that.
it.
just
Yeah.
not the end.
Yeah.
Yeah, La La Land, I thought was an instant classic.
agree.
Emma Stone, Ryan
I loved
Gosling,
it.
that film was magical. You know, it made me actually
Beautiful.
enjoy jazz. You know,
I feel robbed when I saw that not because of the movie, because the
talked up
movie
too
theater
much?
experience. No, the projector in the middle of it cut out.
Oh.
So we're watching it like 2 or 3 notches darker than it should have been, so the colors didn't stand out. I was distracted.
Oh, that
I feel
sucks.
robbed that I didn't get the
So it was
experience.
beautiful.
Later, I saw it again and I could appreciate it, but I was like, that first time when you
Yeah.
guys saw it, how you felt, I missed
Well,
out.
Julie, I have
not
it in
fair.
4K, so you can watch it on my big,
It-
nice
Okay, good.
TV.
It looks
Movie
incredible,
night.
incredible on his screen. It looks.
I think La La Land was an instant classic, and look, Moonlight was a good movie, but I do feel like La La Land should have won the Best Picture, which it kind of did, and then it didn't. That was so surreal. And Moonlight was a beautiful movie, but La La Land, I don't know, that's rewatchable. I think it will
spectacular.
stand the test of time. Okay, I'm almost done actually, and then Skyfall, my favorite Bond movie.
Oh, yeah.
I was
I
not a
enjoyed
big
that.
fan of Daniel Craig. I actually wasn't, because I thought it was too gruff and rough for the suave James Bond, and then Skyfall blew me
Skyfall
away.
was excellent.
Also, killer song. Thank you, Adele.
Yeah.
Adele, and then Javier Bardem.
Oh, that's yeah.
Javier
You said it
Bardem.
right.
He was incredible. See, that's a villain I love. He was amazing in that. You know.
Oh God, his creepy face in that.
Yeah,
though.
that was an instant classic to me. The Avengers, to me, was an instant classic as a superhero movie. Well, I'm a geek. I mean, I
I'll give
grew
it
up
to you,
reading
though.
those
I'll give
comics.
it to
yeah,
you.
for the superhero movies, I really enjoyed the
Right.
Avengers.
Yeah, it's a classic to me. I always get joy out of watching it. And then Drive to me was a classic.
Drive
It's
was
such
excellent.
a neo-noir.
Did you watch
I
that?
don't know how
Of
to say
course
it.
I
I
watched it.
liked it.
Hello, Ryan Gosling.
The soundtrack,
Hello.
is incredible. Gosling is incredible. The ultra violence is a bit unsettling,
God,
but
that
it's
elevator scene.
yeah, but it's strangely quite a beautiful film.
Drive. I was thinking
Drive.
of Baby Driver.
No, Drive.
Drive I
No,
was
see,
not into
Baby
at
Driver
all.
is too soon for
Yeah.
me. I
I
don't
haven't
know if I
seen
call
it.
it a classic.
No
Drive.
spoilers. I
It
haven't
was
seen
Oh, it's
it.
amazing, but I
Drive
don't know if
thought
it's a
was
classic.
very boring. Sorry.
Oh, I love it. It's a classic.
love it.
I was
That's
really
okay.
bored.
So look, I know this took a while, so thank you so much for your patience. I'll just mention a few here that were considered classics. I don't really consider classics. Black Swan, I don't think it's a classic. Natalie Portman won an Oscar. She's good. I don't think it's a great movie. Boyhood, I loved it when it came out, and then trying to watch it again, I don't know.
Didn't hold my
It
attention. I'm
didn't.
sorry.
Whiplash, good performance.
Didn't see
You
it.
know, Revenant, rough movie with Leo. He won an Oscar. He should have won an Oscar for tons of other films.
Yeah, agreed.
Philomena, okay. King's Speech, good film, but not very rewatchable. Let's see, Captain Phillips. The last
Great
5
movie.
minutes of that. See, I don't like that movie very much, but the last 5 minutes has probably Tom Hanks' best performance
It does,
ever. I mean, he's incredible in that last
I have
5
to watch
minutes.
it. I haven't seen it.
Great
Very good.
movie.
I actually like the whole film, but yeah.
American Hustle got so much acclaim. I didn't understand it at all. It was so confusing. And then Lincoln, I guess, I'm not American, so I probably didn't understand all the history. I found it very boring. Daniel Day-Lewis won the Oscar. It's a Spielberg movie. I didn't get it. Ladies, that's my list.
Okay.
Well,
So
I've got
what did I
some
miss?
things to chime in here and tell me what you think, Tony, and see if these are true
Finally,
classics
Julie gets to talk.
or not. So just rewinding a little bit, going back in time, back to the 50s. Did you ever see Rear Window.
Oh yeah, Hitchcock, great movie.
To me, that's a Hitchcock classic.
So
loved it. Intriguing.
So he has many. So I picked Psycho. That's what happened.
I would pick Rear Window for me.
He has
personally.
Vertigo. He has North by Northwest. But okay, good. So you love Rear Window.
Yeah. Okay. And then actually prior to that, in the 40s, did you ever see It's a Wonderful Life?
Okay, so you guys are gonna kill me for this. I've never seen it. Yeah. And I also
Yenny,
have no
high five
interest.
me. A movie Tony hasn't seen. That's a classic.
Okay, so when I do my
don't know
Christmas
why. I have no
movie night,
interest.
we're gonna do It's a Wonderful Life because that's actually a holiday movie.
Yeah.
We're gonna do it.
Yes. And speaking of holiday films, people may totally disagree, but to me, Elf
Elf was on my list.
Is a classic.
It is.
It's
Elf
a
was
modern
on my
classic.
list. I love you. I love you. I love you. Yeah, Elf was on my list. I took it off because it was my list was too long.
I don't really like Will Ferrell, to be honest, that much. His funny
But
stuff.
that one is
I mean, Step
brilliant.
Brothers is really funny, but that and Stranger Than Fiction are my
I
favorite
love Stranger Than
Will
Fiction.
Ferrell
I love it.
movies.
But see, I realized that was kind of more my personal choice. And again, the list was too big. I know it's weird. I don't know why. I don't even have a drawer to see It's a Wonderful Life. You'll have to force me to see it one day.
Film.
I know it's one of the most acclaimed.
It's a classic.
Yeah, it's one of the most acclaimed Christmas movies of all time.
Okay, now here's another one. What about, and it's a Disney one, Mary Poppins? Would you consider that a classic?
Yeah, that should have been on my
Of
list.
course that's a
I noticed
I
that
thought
afterwards.
you would've.
Yeah, I know. A spoonful of
course,
sugar
that
helps
is
the
100%
medicine go
classic.
down.
That and Bedknobs and Broomsticks are both
Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious.
Yeah, everybody knows the songs from
Yeah.
Mary Poppins,
Yeah.
so that
I
holds the
agree.
test of time.
100%.
It would be on my list of musicals, absolutely right at the top. There's just so many.
Well, there's a couple of 80s ones that,
What else?
Pretty in Pink.
Yep.
Did I
Total
not say
classic.
Pretty in
You
Pink?
did not say Pretty in Pink.
Okay, good. So remember, it was on
It
my
was in
first
rom-com,
draft.
but
no.
also-
It was on my first draft, and this list was. I knew this was going to take like 2 hours
okay,
to go
fine.
through, so I cut it off. I
it
love
was
Pretty
on
in
there.
Pink, and we discussed it on one.
Another Molly Ringwald
It's a classic.
Another Molly Ringwald one I'm surprised you didn't bring up.
16 Candles.
Yeah.
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 See,
Didn't like it that much?
No. I like it. It's not a classic to me. Pretty in Pink, I think, stands the test of time.
Yeah.
16 Candles is kind of hokey. And you know, it's a little sexist, some of the scenes in there. With the guy, he talks about the girl while she's sleeping. He could have his way with her. Rewatch it. But it's a funny movie, and it's quite racist with the Asian character.
Yeah.
It's a cute film, but Pretty in Pink is timeless.
What about that movie that we saw the other week, Fish Called Wanda?
Oh, yeah.
It's good, but I don't think it's a classic. It's a good
To
movie.
me, that's a
Great
classic.
movie, though.
Great movie. What's John Cleese?
John Cleese, Michael Palin, Jamie Lee Curtis.
Jamie
It's
Lee
good. See, I didn't even finish it. So,
Well, we had people over. It was a busy day.
what else you got?
Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon.
Okay, I watched it in the theater. I'm not a fan of that movie.
I think that's
People
great.
love it. People love it. I'm not a fan. I've seen it once.
Well, fine.
Never. wanted
Okay,
to see
how
it
about
again.
this one? Top Gun.
Of
Okay.
course.
It was on my
Goose,
list. So-
Maverick.
Yeah. I feel the need for speed. So you guys know
Val
me.
Kilmer.
Yeah.
Top Gun's one of my favorite movies of all time.
Would you consider that a classic?
Of course I would.
Okay, good.
I only took it off again. So, listeners, I made a first draft and then I vetted it about 10 times because the list
Yeah,
was
his first
huge.
draft, granted, had probably 1,000
Hundreds,
movies.
yeah,
on it,
hundreds.
so.
And that was, again, just off the top of my head. Of course, Top Gun was on it. I love that
Top
movie.
Gun's amazing.
It's amazing, cheesy, 80s perfection.
What about A Few Good Men?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, good.
100%.
Was that on the list?
See, I don't think it's a classic, and I'll tell you why. In my opinion,
You want the truth? You can't handle the truth.
that scene is classic. The rest of
Okay.
the movie, not so much. I don't remember any of it. I
I
remember
do.
that
I remember
scene.
everything about that
I
movie.
don't.
I've rewatched it. I just rewatched the end, but I've rewatched it.
You want the
many
truth?
times.
You can't handle the truth.
Incredible.
What about
movie.
You've Got Mail?
Did you order the code red? You goddamn right I did.
He's still on it.
you-
He's still on it.
I think You've Got Mail's kind of cheesy. The one I actually
not-
liked the
I'm not in
most,
on that one.
the
Harry
best.
Met Sally.
No, actually I love that too, and that was on my list as well. The best Tom Hanks, Meg Ryan one that I love is actually Sleepless in Seattle.
I love
so
that movie
cute
too.
But again, I knew this was going to take so long, so
Yeah.
I just wanted to touch upon
Didn't
the
make the
real
cut.
classics. Yeah, didn't make the cut. But these are great choices, Juju.
I think another classic movie, which you made me watch, and I was scared to death, and there's a picture of me, we're on the couch watching, I'm clutching the pillow, 28
Seven?
Days Later.
That's a
Okay, it was on my
great
first
movie.
list.
Yeah.
I love
That,
28 Days
I
Later.
don't really
He made
watch
me watch
movies
that
like
too.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah, and
zombie
I thought it
movie.
was that one with what's-her-face in it, and she going
With-
through rehab.
Huh? Oh, you thought it was Sandra Bullock.
I did
28
not know what I
days.
was in for, and so then clutching the pillow,
Yeah, so
clutching your
Cillian
guys'
Murphy,
hands.
that was his breakout. Danny Boyle. It's one of the best
Didn't that
zombie movies.
start all the zombie
It was
stuff.
a big. It had a
It was
big
like
impact.
at the beginning of
Yeah,
it.
Yep.
and it's a
Yep.
British movie. Fantastic.
Brilliant.
I consider it a classic.
Okay, here's a total classic. A Christmas Story.
Yes, definitely.
I think that's an American movie
Yes,
because
it
It is an
haven't-
American movie.
I've seen it only a couple years ago, and it didn't
little
really.
boy and
I didn't
his
grow up
tongue.
with it. I just
All
remember
he
someone
wants is
getting
that-
He wants
his
his
tongue
tongue.
stuck, right, or
Yeah.
something.
Yeah, he gets his tongue stuck to the
Sorry.
hole in the snow.
No, Tony. It's a Wonderful Life and A Christmas Story are
I
on
have to
order
watch
for
them.
this Christmas.
Well, no, I watched A Christmas Story, I think, with you and Sarah
yeah.
a couple years ago in the apartment.
Yeah, we did.
But I was kind of bored, and I wasn't really invested. I don't know. It doesn't.
It's quite witty. I think you should give
Oh,
it
it's
one
so
more
cute.
shot.
I will.
Yeah.
Very well written, quite witty. I think this is one that was on your list. I'm just going to make it just a shout out. Who Framed Roger Rabbit?
It was on my original.
So,
'Cause
just
that
a
film
shout
is-
out.
That film's actually quite groundbreaking.
Yeah.
You know, it was incredible.
Ghost is another
course.
classic shout
Yeah,
out.
look, I love Ghost, and it's one of my mother's favorite movies as well. It's kind of cheesy, but it's obviously got like classic scenes, the pottery
Oh, it's
sex
completely
scene.
a classic, 100%
yeah.
of romantic
Yeah, it
classics.
is, it is.
One of the most romantic
I'm
movies
not
of all
arguing
time.
you, late. I'm not arguing.
So
with you,
here's
ladies.
another one. It's more of a modern classic. High Fidelity, John Cusack, Jack
Yeah,
Black.
I liked it. I don't think that's a
music
classic.
nerds
A lot of people love
will
that
appreciate
movie.
my shout out. High five to you all.
I like it.
think that's a classic. And
It's
it
based on a
stands the
British
test
book
of
as
time.
well.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, Nick
I didn't know
Hornby,
that.
I believe. Yeah, I read
Okay.
the book. It's a good book.
I should read that book. Fargo.
Oh, Fargo should have been on my list. I love Fargo.
After I saw that, I was
Yeah.
speaking, and they're
love
from
Fargo.
Minnesota.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh,
yeah.
don't you know?
Oh yeah, you want a cup of jar?
Oh, yeah.
And Frances McDormand won the Oscar, and
She was great.
What a great
Steve
character!
Buscemi.
She's pregnant, and she's the one who saves the day in the end. And no, I'm not a huge fan of the Coen Brothers, and Fargo I love. I love that movie.
Love
I've seen
that.
it several times. William H. Macy, that was his breakout performance. He got an Oscar nomination. I love. Actually, I that's an admission. That should have been on my list. That's definitely a classic.
Here's a slightly odd one that I wouldn't think would make it for me, but what about Twister?
Yes.
Well, okay, so that's like one of your favorite
Yeah.
movies and your husband's, right,
Yeah,
Yenny?
it is probably my husband's favorite movie.
Honey, I gotta go. We've got cows.
Yeah, so I
so
watched
many great lines.
I watched it when it came out. I actually remember enjoying it, and I've never seen it again.
I'll
So,
try.
yeah.
Whenever it comes, well, you also, I watch it on TV. It's always on cable. We record it, and then I bought it as soon as, Bill Paxton died.
So remember, every person is going to have their individual
Yeah.
list of favorites.
Yeah. These
So
are
I-
just some of
Yeah.
mine.
I think that holds up as a classic, or
Right.
will in some
You know,
way. I
so
do.
really, I mean, we've touched upon hundreds of movies.
Hundreds
This
of
has been
movies,
quite productive, but obviously we're not going to cover them all.
No.
Yes.
What else?
And
we
there's
got?
only a couple more here now we were talking about foreign films, needing subtitles. Amelie is
I
all-time
actually
my
like
favorite
that movie a
film.
lot. Yeah.
Love
That is
it.
an incredible film.
It's charming. It's also a feel good.
French movie, right?
Yeah, it's
Very
French.
sweet. I've
Audrey
only seen it once or
Tautou.
twice.
It's so good. And the thing about it is like the use of colors in it. They always contrast like a red and a green and a red and a blue.
It's quite
which I didn't
sexual, that
notice.
movie, I remember.
A little bit.
Julie,
not
you're
too
kind of
much.
kinky.
Oh my god.
It's
Okay.
quite sexualized from what I remember.
Moving on.
No, Amelie is a beloved movie.
But another
Absolutely.
French film, Intouchables. Did you see that?
Oh, I love that movie.
I think that's
I think
going
it's too
to be
soon to be a classic, but
a
I love
modern
that movie.
classic. I think it would evolve.
Yeah. I really like that film.
Okay, good. That
Very
was
good.
really good. For those of you who haven't seen it,
French
see it.
movie, Intouchables.
Heartwarming.
Yeah.
It takes you by surprise. It took me by
Yeah,
surprise.
it's a beautiful
Didn't think
story.
I would enjoy it as much as I did.
I totally agree.
What about Secret Life of Walter Mitty? That might be another one that's too
So
soon to tell.
that's a film that I think is such a heartwarming, great movie. It is disjointed, and it critically and commercially didn't do very well. And I think it's almost too heartwarming and feel good for people.
I love that
Yeah, so do
movie.
I.
It
I
was so
don't
whimsical
know,
for me
Yeah,
too.
I don't know if I would call it a classic, but I actually
Okay.
love that movie, so it's a great pick.
Okay, good.
Ben
Well, I
Stiller.
think yeah, Ben Stiller is really good.
He
Kristen
wrote
Wiig.
and directed it.
It's a
Yeah.
great
Oh, I
movie.
didn't know he actually wrote that.
Yeah. Oh, he directed it. Sorry.
Oh, okay.
And
good.
starred in it.
And then just one more I want to bring up. The Martian. Did you see that?
So okay, my wife loves it.
I love that
I
movie,
like
too.
it. I didn't think it was as great as people
I love
thought.
it. I could watch that. I've only seen it 3 times now, and I could watch it
Only 3 times.
only 3 times.
I've
No,
seen
I
it
love
3,
it.
yeah.
Love it. So
I liked it. Maybe it's too soon, but like I listed out there, you noticed that for the last decade there was only a handful that I thought were like instant classics.
Yeah.
Because it has to kind of stand the test of time.
Yeah.
Rewatchability is a real big factor for me. Is that your list?
That's my list. That does. I just want to know your thoughts on those.
Wow.
So, guys, we did it.
Yeah, wow.
And you guys covered pretty much all of mine.
Do you have any others,
No,
Yanni?
you've covered all of mine. My top favorites are Jurassic Park, Forrest Gump.
I mean, it's so hard.
Oh,
for me.
there's one more.
Just a few.
Okay, now this is kind of an action one. Boondock Saints.
Oh, well, you know what? I rewatched it and it's fun. And William Dafoe gives such a batshit crazy performance. I don't know if it's a classic. It's quite poorly produced.
I think it is. I think a lot of people would agree that it is a classic. And
a lot of
Willem
people
Dafoe
will. A lot of people will.
does a phenomenal job.
He's great. He's so crazy.
The two brothers are just
yeah.
And Rocco.
Yeah, it's got Daryl
Was that a
from
cat?
Walking Dead. Oh my god, the cat! Yeah. That was incredible.
So anyway, no, but that does it for me.
I
Those
like
are
it, and
the
I just
movies.
rewatched it. Okay, great.
Yeah.
Wow, that was an achievement. What do you got, Yanni?
You possibly won't call this a classic from me. It is a Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves.
The Kevin Costner one.
Yeah.
When it came
Even though
out,
he's American, and I know that was the thing with everybody, but Alan Rickman's performance in that film.
well, at least it wasn't a spoon.
I'm thinking of Robin Hood, Prince in Tights.
Okay,
Or Men in Tights.
That's Mel Brooks
Which is
comedy
So I was
slapstick.
like, wait.
So she's talking about the Kevin Costner film that
Yeah.
came out in like the early 90s. When that film came out, it was a big hit. And I know you'll
phenomenal.
disagree with me. I tried to rewatch it.
I love
it's
it.
very hammy now. I
watched
couldn't get through it.
so many times.
It was
and
great
loved it.
for
Yeah.
its time.
Yeah.
It was wonderful. I saw it in the theater twice.
Yeah.
I saw it on VHS several times. I tried to watch it like a year or so ago, and I got through half an hour. Kevin Costner, he did some great films back in the day, but,
Yeah.
Anyway, that's a perfect example of a classic. It has to really stand the test of time, really
Yeah.
hold up, and
I think
everyone has their own opinions, which is okay.
But honestly, largely, I think they were covered. They were covered really, really well. Yeah.
Well, now I've got a huge list of movies that I need to watch.
You guys
a
better
bunch
get
of
busy.
classics.
Look at my list, Tony.
So thank you, Tony, for
So
giving
this
me
was
some
actually
homework.
productive and constructive.
Yeah, and
That's your homework.
honestly,
That's my
listeners,
homework.
this is one of the things Tony, the movie guy, is all for. Useful information for your movie choices and that kind of thing. So really use this. Have some great movie nights, and you might find out.
Yeah,
a thing or
hopefully
two.
all the listeners can plot out their movie nights for the next decade.
Exactly.
Anyway, look, that was a lot of fun. Thank you, listeners, so much for taking this journey with us and being so patient, because I know that was very long. But you know what? I thought it was worth it. So that's all I have. Say goodbye, ladies.
Bye.
Good night.
Thanks so much, and tune in for our next episode. Bye.
Thank you so much for listening to Tony the Movie Guy, Episode 6, Classics, Part 2. Just a reminder to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Tony the Movie Guy. Also, email us in at tonythemovieguypodcast@gmail.com. And lastly, please share, rate, and review our podcast. We'd like to get it out there to as many people as possible, and your ratings and reviews really, really help. Also, share with your friends on all your social media. We'd love to have more listeners just like you. Thanks so much. Have a good night, and see you soon.